Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to your Daily Penguin, our ongoing waddle through all the Penguin classics that I have ever read and that have ever wandered into my life. And we are sticking with Kierkegaard, bro. We're sticking with Kierkegaard, dude. Uh, Kierkegaard was a brilliant man who was in love with the idea of his own brilliance, a brilliant man who was fond of saying, for the whole of his life, from when he was like 15 till he died, he was fond of saying that no one understood him, which is a fine but silly thing for a teenage boy to say, but it really loses its luster when it's said late in life. And he kept saying it, and he made sure that when it came to being understood, no one would understand his writing. He made sure of that. And we are dealing today with a big book of his called Either Or, in the Penguin Classic Edition. I think this is again translated by Alistair Hannay. And this is a book in two parts, only one part. The first part had an enormous life of its own. It's a fairly raucous dialogue between various fictional people about various fictional other people about various fictional books. It's actually something that you wouldn't associate with a philosopher. It's playful. Read in a certain way, read just as a fun rhetorical roller coaster ride, you will actually enjoy it. That's the first part of the book that had a huge independent life on its own. And then there's the second part of the book. The first part of the book is all about living by your feelings, living by emotions and manipulation and aestheticism and whatnot. And the second part of the book is a corrective to that, or is meant to be. It's also voiced and channeled through a fictional figure. So Kierkegaard is allowing himself an enormous amount of interpretive leeway here. He could, as he said in his letters, he could simply disavow the whole thing. Or he could embrace the whole thing by saying that such and such a figure or such and such a stand-in is a figure for him. The second part of the book is, it's more steeply ironic. It's more studied in a way that I'm sure Kierkegaard knew would lose him readers. The first part of the book is perfect. It's catnip for philosophy bros. They're going to love it. It's full of aphorisms that don't make any sense. It's full of the usual the usual gambit of philosophy, which is to raise a question that the answer to which any 5-year-old knows. Is pain better than pleasure? Is it right to hurt people? Take these questions, ask them to a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old. They'll give you an answer immediately. Their answer will be correct, and there won't be any nuance about it because there isn't. But nevertheless, what philosophers would do is raise the question, is pain better than pleasure? Of course, your answer is immediately going to be no. And instead of saying, yeah, you're right, that gallstone I passed, geez, I wouldn't want that back again. Instead of doing that, a philosopher bro is going to say, but how do you know that? And we're off to the races with a 1,000-page impenetrable book that every single black ring cow crap dude bro influencer will claim to have read. And the first part of this book is very much conducive to that kind of reader. And they will not realize, I don't think a lot of them will realize, that they themselves are being satirized in the first part of the book. And the reason they might not realize it is because it might not be true. It might not be true. Kierkegaard gives himself in this big book the ultimate escape clause. He can disavow any of it. And then the second part of the book, even more so, the second part of the book is also irony. It is also funny, but it's such a studied, mannered irony that there's a lot to wade through in this book. The second part of the book is someone criticizing the first part of the book. A fictionalized figure, a stand-in icon for the ethics professor, for the stiff judgmental figure, looking at the world through those lenses and therefore condemning almost everything in the first part of the book. This could be a bit of a wade. There's a lot of nonsense in here. It isn't nonsense that is born of the genre of philosophy, which is itself composed of nonsense. But how do you know that? The genre of philosophy is utterly worthless. It's composed of word games, and that's it. It has ultimately, at its heart, only one actual goal: the exclusion of women. That's all. That is the ultimate goal of philosophy. Its only ultimate goal. But it dresses up in a whole bunch of other things too, about questioning the nature of existence. How utterly ridiculous! How utterly ridiculous! Like nature had in it, like existence has a nature. That if you could just find it, then finally you'd be getting up at 3:30 in the morning to start your productivity grind. Utterly worthless. And part of this book feeds into that worthlessness, but another part of this book comments on it, and that's because I think, at heart, Kierkegaard was born too early or in the wrong literary tradition. I think it's clear from this book, clearer actually from this book than from anything else that he wrote. Even a literary review, one half of a literary review that we saw earlier in Your Daily Penguin. I think it's clear from this book that he should have been a novelist. I don't usually say that. Usually I say about novelists, gee, I wish that nonfiction paid because they're so much better at their nonfiction. I wish that they'd been able to pursue that for their life instead of churning out these crappy novels. With Kierkegaard, I say, especially rereading this thing, I say just the opposite, that he should have been a novelist. I think you'll see it when you read this, provided you, the key to reading this book and to not throwing it across the room or at the nearest cat, although I'm not extremely opposed to you throwing books at cats. The key to not doing that is to hold this at arm's length. The key is to look at this as a really smart guy spinning wheels and basically having a kind of elephantine fun. If you look at this for philosophical precepts, well, first of all, you're a moron if you look for philosophical precepts anywhere about anything. What is the sunrise? It's when the earth turns to the point where it looks like the sun is coming up over the horizon. Yeah, but how do you know that? What does it mean? What about the sunriseness of sunrises? Utterly worthless. All it is meant to do is tack a big sign onto your treehouse clubhouse saying no girls allowed. That's all it's meant to do. But if you go into this looking for that, first of all, you shouldn't look for that anywhere, and just read a novel, and read a novel by a woman. instead of wasting your life burying it in giant philosophical tomes, which this is not, keep in mind. Instead of wasting your life reading Being and Nothingness, read a Barbara Pym novel. Read a Muriel Spark novel. Read a Muriel Spark novel before you lose the ability to read a Muriel Spark novel, because believe me, you can. That ability, once it atrophies, has to be completely relearned from scratch. So don't risk it. Right now, a lot of the philosophy bros that I see on BookTube and off BookTube are not actually mentally able to read and appreciate a Muriel Spark novel, even a minor Muriel Spark novel, The Symposium. They're not able to do it. It's not that it's not my cup of tea. I just don't like reading this stuff. I'd rather crack rocks and put heavy machinery on red checkered tablecloths and write about it on my yellow legal pad. It's not that they don't prefer it. It's that they can't do it anymore. They can't read Pride and Prejudice anymore. It's the same complaint that I had 15 years ago, when the fad was for adults to openly and exclusively read books written for children, reading YA. I used to say, fine if you like it, but if you only read that, you're going to atrophy your ability to read a book for an adult, and a whole generation of readers did. So you present those readers with some serious new novel, and they go, I can't read this. Anyway, what was the ultimate point behind that rant? Oh, right. If you don't go at this looking for philosophical precepts, if you go at it as a kind of a very chin-stroking, but nevertheless a lark, done by the smartest person in the world, I think you'll appreciate it a lot more. Although, in a rare instance, I have to caution you about the Penguin edition, because this isn't everything, and it should be. This is the editor here. I forget the editor's name. It could be the translator, Henne. It could be him himself. But this is not all of either, and I don't think it's all of or either. Sorry, I guess a little bit confusing, but I don't think you get all of either one of either of the parts of this book. You get The Seducer's Diary, which is the thing that had a sort of independent life of its own, and that is genuinely creepy, but it's meant to be creepy. It's not meant to approve of creepiness. It's meant to be creepy. But you don't get all the rest of it. And I don't know. I mean, I'm a dude bro. I'm the king of dude bros. So of course I don't want you leaving stuff out of Kierkegaard, especially since it's confusing, because Penguin does a really good job with Kierkegaard. If you encounter him in English, it's almost certainly going to be through Penguin. They did a really good job with him. They early on signed on to the fact in their publishing, their career, that he was important enough to stay in print in accessible translations. So I don't know why you'd muck around with that, but nevertheless, as an introduction, certainly this is worth doing. Although, like I said, it can be a slog. A lot of it is self-indulgent. Now, it's up to you whether or not you believe, as I do, that it's ironically self-indulgent. Ironic self-indulgence and genuine self-indulgence, there isn't that much to separate them. So it's a bit of a slog. You have to prepare yourself for that. But if you look at it and remember the fact that there are so many fictional artifices being used here, I think that's the key to enjoying it, is to remember how much of this is Kierkegaard saying, well, is it me or isn't? So anyway, that's your daily, either or. Anyway, that's your daily penguin for today. I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.